Hello and welcome to the oddschecker US Open Golf Preview podcast and video. I'm your host, George Elek, and I'm delighted to be joined today by oddschecker's very own golf tipster, Niall Lyons. Niall, I think congratulations are in order since the last time we spoke. Another one on the way. What's the name? Is it Xander? Is it Tiger?
No, baby moustache, I'm afraid. There was no winners. There's been no winners around that time, and it's actually been a fair while since I got a winner. I think Morikawa was the last one in the workday, so it's been a bit of a barren spell, but
Not Collin Lyons?
no, not quite. No, struggling with lack of sleep, to be fair, but what can you do? Just ticking off the days until you start sleeping through the night, and then hopefully we'll get a break,
Well, fingers crossed you'll be sleepless this weekend with the thoughts of big winners aplenty. And I've seen your tips, and there's certainly one headline selection in there with a decent amount of points staked. But we'll get there eventually. But firstly, we'll talk about where the US Open is taking place this weekend. It's at Winged Foot. We last saw the US Open held at Winged Foot back in 2006. So fair to say a fair few golf fans wouldn't have seen much action at this course, but it's known to be one of the toughest on tour. So what can you kind of tell people who haven't done the research yet, don't know what Winged Foot's about? What kind of a test is it?
Well, it's great to have it back because, recent US Opens, we've seen that stray towards, the full American links kind of style courses, and they've really been lapped up by the players a few times, especially Brooks Koepka. But Winged Foot's a return to that classical US Open design that we were used to back in the late 90s and early 2000s. It's undergone a redesign in the last 3 or 4 years with this US Open in mind, Gilhan's redesign. But it's the Tillinghast greens that are the real talking point here. That same designer, he designed Baltusrol and Bethpage Black as well, and the greens here, they'll be the big talking point over the 4 days. They're very, very sloping. They're going to be very fast as well. It's a firm and fast golf course. It hasn't received an awful lot of rain in the last couple of months. Bethpage held the 2016 Barclays event, and the 2019 USPGA, and the 2016 USPGA was at Baltusrol. So there are 3 events that you would look to if you want to find some kind of course correlation. It was interesting last week. I listened to a good bit of Jeff Ogilvy, who won in 2006, on a couple of podcasts, and he again mainly talked about the greens. He said that he won the event basically getting up and down so many times from 100 yards, and especially in and around the greens, holding enough putts and enough par putts, just basically to be in contention over the weekend. He likened the greens to the likes of Riviera in California and the Puana surfaces of Torrey Pines, and also made a couple of similarities at the size and the slopes to them, like Augusta. But you have to hit certain, there's tabletops where they put the pins and a lot of slopes, so approach play into the right parts of the green will be important. He also likened the greens to Royal Melbourne as well, a similar type of test when approaching the green. So there are the types of courses and results that I'll be looking to as a pointer with who to back.
So yeah, I mean, you've spoken about the greens. It's fair to say that the fairways are pretty narrow at Winged Foot. It's pretty long. A lot of par fours are kind of 450, between that kind of 450 to 500 yard bracket as well. So you're going to be hitting long irons into these par fours. What other stats and kind of player strengths would you be looking at when choosing your picks?
Well, as you say, it's a long golf course. It's over 7,400 yards, par 70, which we never really see. The one thing is that it will play firm and fast. So if you do hit the fairways, it does give chances to those who don't hit the ball that far off the tee that it might not be as scary lengthwise as what it says on the card. But as I say, I think the importance will really be around the greens, so strokes gained, short game, and around the greens. And then I would look, with regards to putting, I would look to who performs well on Puana surfaces, which these are this week. It's a very niche type of green that an awful lot of players just don't cope well with. So those who grew up putting on those surfaces, especially you see a lot of it in California. Those guys may be an advantage.
We saw last time the US Open was here back in 2016, Colin Montgomery led after day one just with a 69, so 1 under par. The winning score from Jeff Ogilvy was 5 over, with Furyk, Mickelson and Monty all 6 over. Mickelson and Montgomery both effectively throwing away the tournament on the Sunday. This year, we've had very little rain ahead of the event. There's going to be a fair bit of breeze up as well, so it's going to be playing pretty tough. But as you mentioned, the changes made to the course back in 2017. If I had to push you, and I know this goes beyond your remit as a golf tipster, but you don't have to cover this market. But what kind of winning score do you reckon we'll be looking at come Sunday evening?
I reckon probably around a couple under par. Similar to what we seen at Olympia Fields a couple of weeks ago for the BMW. The game's changed a lot since 2006 when Ogilvy won. It was interesting actually listening to Ogilvy in a podcast there that he said that he doesn't think it's the type of place where you can just bomb it in the rough and gouge it out and make your score that way. That really that Bruce Koepka did at Bethpage last year. He's, from what I gleaned from Ogilvy is that he doesn't think that's possible. So I think everyone's going to miss fairways, So the further down you are the hole when you miss that fairway, it's going to be an advantage. So I do think it will suit the bigger hitters, but yeah, it will play very tough. I'm hoping it plays very tough, and I'm hoping we'll see. I'd like to see over par win. So they've won US Open. Obviously, the whole level pars. That's the goal where they want to get the players to the winning score of the week. A couple of times over even the last couple of years, it's went over par. So it is nice to see. It's nice to see them struggle, and I think it does produce a great tournament. And the few tournaments that we've seen this year that have been very tough, mainly the Memorial and the Olympia Fields, they've been great watches. So hopefully this will be the same.
Looking through the leaderboard from 2006, you've got Ogilvy winning, who's of course Australian, and they're often you see Australians being very good at that kind of tough, those tough conditions and those fast greens. In Phil Mickelson in second, you've got a player who's won a fair few Open Championships, Jim Furyk, with I think it's 4 top 5s in the Open Championship. Monty Harrington and Kenny Ferry all in the top 10 as well. 3 British-based players. Nick O'Hearn from Australia again. Is there a sense that it's that kind of player, somebody who can play, who can tackle adverse conditions, is the kind of player who's gonna come up trumps here? Absolutely.
I'm looking, as you'll see in my preview, which I think has just been posted right about now, I would say. I'm looking at players with good attitudes on the course, because things will go wrong this week inevitably. And I watched 2006, the last couple of hours of it over the weekend there, just to remind myself, and I was really looking forward to watching it. To be fair, it was one of the best US Opens we've seen, and everybody collapsed. Basically bar Ogilvy, especially Monty and Mickelson on the 72nd. But I think attitude will be highly important this week. You look at the likes of the Australians and the South Africans. They seem to have really good temperaments on the golf course when things aren't going well, as opposed to the fiery temperament of the Spanish golfers usually. So yeah, it's one thing that I'm looking towards this week. Guys who have patience, slightly carefree on the course and don't treat it too seriously.
Right, let's get into your picks. Before we do so, just going to point you in the direction of the oddschecker app. It's the very best place to find the best prices, the best bookie offers, the best free bets, and the very best tipsters across all sports, including, of course, Niall's column for all the US events over the course of the season, and of course, unless things like having babies gets in the way, and a few, of course, European Tour events on top of that as well. 19-point stake, Niall. You're not mucking around here. 7 selections.
Why not?
We'll start with the top one. And as I say, this is all on the oddschecker app. We're going to rattle through these 7 pretty quickly, then talk about some of the other ones we haven't spoken about at the top end of the market. But to read Niall's thoughts, you want to download the app. Headline tip: it's a 4-point win bet at 10-1. Niall, put them out of their misery. Who is it?
It's Jon Rahm. As you say, 19-point stake, but these are the weeks where you're going to do it. With the place terms out there, the 10, 11 places. This is the week to get involved with high enough stakes that I think you'll be pretty unlucky not to, take something back for, on Sunday evening. But yeah, Rahm's the headline pick. To be fair, in the run up to it, I wasn't too keen on backing the price, and 10-1, it's nothing special. That is his price. I'm not saying it's value or anything. Hence the win only bet. But he's probably the most likely winner to me, even though Dustin Johnson's playing out of his skin. I'm slightly worried that Dustin Johnson just can't continue on that path for much longer. The heroics, and I think just over the last couple of weeks could have taken a fair bit out of him, and Rahm might just be a bit fresher for the task. But the two of them could go head to head. There's no doubt about that. It could be the two of them over the weekend. They're head and shoulders above the rest at the minute. But Rahm, he's won the two hardest events on the tour this year. Muirfield Village, that held the Memorial. Of course, we've seen Jack Nicklaus, trick that course setup up a little bit over the weekend, and it was very tough, and there was bogeys all over the place. Rahm coped very well with it. He was a runaway victor in the end. I know he got a penalty towards the end of the round, but he won that in great fashion. And then Olympia Fields, I think, but him and Dustin got into the playoff. I think it was 4 under par they finished. Another really, really tough event. So that's signs that, we've talked before about his temperament here on various podcasts and other majors before, and whether he's ready or not. But I think he's ready now. I think we've seen the turning of the tide earlier on in the year at Torrey Pines, when on the final day, I think he went out with McIlroy, and I think the two of them had a really bad start to their final round. And you think that, the temperament of Jon Rahm at the time was just, to give up the ghost. He's had slow starts in events and actually recovered quite well. Like, I kind of like when he has a slow start in an event, looking at his price and maybe backing him if, he's not too far behind. But a slow start on the final day, you were expecting him just to get too much for him. But he turned the corner, and Leishman looked like a winner a long way out in that event, and Rahm ran him close. I think he finished just a shot behind in the end. That was a turning of the tide for me, that, it just looked like his temperament was spot on. And, as things have played out throughout the course of the year, then the two wins at the two hardest events where bogeys are plenty. I think Rahm's just reached that other level now. The one maybe chink in his armour has possibly been fixed, and whether it be here or Augusta in a couple of months' time, I'd say there's a fair chance he might get off the mark in one of these two majors. So I think he'll take the chance on this one.
Doesn't feel like long until Jon Rahm will win one of these, and he's 10-1 with Bet365, William Hill, BetVictor, Betfred, and 10Bet, and a couple of others as well. Just on something you said, I read a good preview from the guys at Golf Betting System, and they made a decent point aligning with what you're saying about Rahm there, given that Winged Foot is so difficult, and given that the back stretch, I think it's 13 through to 18, is the toughest stretch on the course. If you can get on someone in running on Saturday or Sunday morning who can get in the clubhouse, probably 2 or 3 shots off what the lead is at that time, and they can sit in with their feet up knowing they posted a score. It's the kind of course where under pressure on a Sunday of a major with Sunday pins, the field could come back to them very quickly. And so that might be something just for anybody who's maybe tearing up their coupons on Saturday afternoon and wants some interest on Sunday evening, could be an interesting way to go. Moving on to the second pick now, 2 points each way. And I have 2 rules that I try and tell myself for my golf punting, Niall. Don't back Hideki Matsuyama and don't back Adam Scott. And you spent the first 5 minutes of this podcast talking about how important the greens were going to be, and then you've tipped up 2 points each way Adam Scott at 50-1 with 888 in Unibet. So can you please riddle me that?
He's quite a good putter nowadays.
No, I can't have it.
He's turned that around slightly in the last couple of years. But I understand your other.
He's a good long putter, isn't he? That's what they say. His short putting is still needs to be designed.
That's one of the things that's quite important this week, because you're inevitably going to miss greens, but when you're coming out of the rough and you're not laying up short of the green and you're going for the green, you could end up with very, very long putts across slopes. I think he'll cope quite well with that. I backed him in the Open last year and he was very, very disappointing. So I understand that, you know, he can be frustrating at times, but he's got 2 wins at Riviera, one of them being this year, earlier on in the season. So that's a big plus for me. Obviously, Ogilvy mentioned those greens as a kind of correlation, and the course that it suits, you know, the draw ball shape. 3 top 10s in his last 6 US Opens. He's kind of got the grips with this event late on in his career. He didn't have a great record early on in his career, so 3 top 10s in the last 6, not too bad. Top 25 at Harding Park, the last major. When you're looking at majors these days over the last number of years, it's crucial to look at the results from the previous cut. You know, when you get the US Open or the PGA, the previous couple of majors where the guys have finished, usually is a fairly big pointer as to what's going to happen that week. He was a top 25 at Harding Park, isn't too bad. He was top 20 at Baltusrol in 2016. And he has the wins at Augusta and Royal Melbourne, the 2 places that I mentioned have similarities with the greens. So I think his price is about right, as I mentioned in the preview. It's not a big ounce of value or anything, but I think he has to be on the staking plan. He's one of the ones who I can just see contending over the week.
You speak about good recent major form, and I suppose it's not that recent anymore, but the third, your third selection is somebody who's won a major on notoriously difficult greens in Patrick Reed, who you've got 1.5 points each way at 40 to 1. Reed is 40 to 1 with William Hill, who are 9 places, and Bet Victor, who are 6 places. So do check the app to make sure that these place terms you're getting are the best possible, because it'll be frustrating to back Reed at 40s with Bet Victor, only for him to come 7th, and you could have had it with Hills. It feels like Reed is back trending in the right direction. Yeah,
he finished 7th at the Tour Championship, the proper leaderboard, that is, over the 72 holes, which isn't too bad. It's mainly the credentials and the things that I've been looking at as a pointer as to who will play well. It makes Reed a bet this week. He's got the win at Augusta, obviously, and he won the 2016 Barclays at Bethpage. It's another Tillinghast design. He was 4th at Shinnecock a couple of years ago when, you know, the conditions kind of USGA got run away with the scores. Like it was a bit too difficult. I think he finished 4 over, and I think it was 3 shots behind the winner. But he finished 4th there, which is another decent effort. He has the right ball shape, draw off the tee. I think suits, you know, about 13 or 14 of these longer holes this course. So yeah, everything. And if you're looking at someone who needs to get up and down from the edges of the greens, Reed is one of the best in the game. And if it comes to holding putts down the stretch on Saturday and Sunday night, he can do it with fair regularity whenever he's in contention, while plenty will be tearing their hair out at the greens. As I said, I watched the 2006 renewal over the weekend there, and I mean 10-foot putts were missing by 2 and 3 feet left and right. The slopes were unbelievable. So I think Reed's one of the better. You can read the greens a lot better. So I think he's one we have to bet this week.
One to side with. More recent major championship form, Paul Casey, 1.5 points each way. Casey at 55 to 1. Casey is 55 to 1 with Bet365, William Hill, Bet Victor, Betfred, the best place terms of those Hills. Again, 9 places, a fifth of the odds. Casey came unstuck, against what was a quite remarkable run of holes by Collin Morikawa in the USPGA a couple of weeks ago. But it feels like this is a different Paul Casey to the one that we used to, try and maybe avoid a couple of years ago. Somebody who couldn't really close. I know that's a narrative that you never really bought into anyway.
Yeah, he's plenty of wins on the board, Casey, so that never worries me. And I think that it's very dangerous to go down that path and get pigeonholed with golfers, because plenty of them go and win, and plenty of them win the majors as well. Paul Casey was one of my ones at the PGA. He was next on my list, and I was very close to backing it, or I didn't tip, but I backed him anyway, at the enhanced place terms. And I was very disappointed that he actually didn't get over the line. He played so well over the weekend there, and very well on Sunday. Only outdone just by pure miracle golf by Morikawa, which of course he is capable of. So, but he came off the course, and what really impressed me was his attitude in the interview afterwards. Obviously, it's not everything we look towards this week, but nevertheless, Casey has had plenty of bad press. But when interviewed, he comes across very well at times. And he was the first to congratulate Morikawa. You know, despite the golf that he played, really kind of deserved a major win. His attitude was just absolutely great, and he was laughing and joking about it and just enjoying his time at, you know, contending in a major. So I was very impressed with that. And he obviously second at Harding Park, and he's got a win around Wentworth as well, which is another very tough track in the European Tour. He's got the biggest wins, you know, but that you can get on both sides of the Atlantic, bar the majors, really. And I just think, as I say, looking towards the last couple of majors is always a good pointer these days. And he's one of those ones who hasn't got a major win in the bag yet, and there's so many of them golfers that these majors are won by first-time major winners now. So I like to have a couple on the staking plan. I've got one with Jon Rahm, and I think Paul Casey's another livery runner.
One who has won a major or two in the past, and one who hasn't. A couple of 1 point tips. Louis Oosthuizen at 80 to 1. That's with Hills. And Alex Noren, an interesting one, a fifth the odds, 10 places. Do you want to run us through those two?
Yeah, Oosthuizen is just one I think will go well in the conditions. He likes tough US Opens. You know, even the Open that he won in 2010 was playing very tough. Obviously, he got the best side of the draw, but everybody was bogeying holes going backwards, and he was busy making a big lead for himself. He was second at Chambers Bay, another US Open one at, I think it was level par, just one over. Top 25s at Baltusrol and Shinnecock, so he's a US Open specialist, really. Like, obviously, he has a Grand Slam of runner-ups in all the four majors, but he's another with a great attitude and a cool head on his shoulders when things are going to get tough throughout the week. So he's one that I just expect to hang about the leaderboard and even one bad round won't put him out of it, because often he has come from behind. I think he actually came from a fair bit behind at Chambers Bay that time as well. Just someone who's got a proper attitude and can hang about, and he's sitting at a tasty price there, to be fair. And we'll talk about the trends in these major championships, and they're all won by golfers in the top 30, top 35 in the world these days. There's very few exceptions from that. Of course, Oosthuizen fits that bracket. I think he's around 20th in the world, so I think he's every chance on a pretty tasty price this week at the place terms.
Yeah, 80 to 1 with Hills. And just to say, if anybody wanted a bit of a bigger price, he is 90 to 1 with 888 and Unibet, but you only get 7 places there. Niall advises taking the 9 places. And yeah, just tell us a bit about Alex Noren, somebody we probably maybe associate his good form more in Europe, but you fancy his chances this weekend.
Yeah, he's just playing sneaky good golf lately. Like, I've been watching him in his last couple of events, and he's been playing quite well. Since the break, like 21st at the Heritage, 3rd at the 3M Open, and a 22nd at the PGA, which is a huge positive for me. A decent performance in the previous major, top 25 there, and then at the toughest venue of the year at Olympia Fields, he was 8th. He's one who can cope with those tough setups. Will miss, plenty of fairways, to be fair, but on and around the greens, I think he's on the. I was looking at the stats earlier on. I think he's in the top 7 or 8 in the field around the green and on them. One of his best performances in America, of course, was being beaten by Jason Day in the playoff at Torrey Pines a few years ago. Puana Services in California, as I've said, as a pointer. So I think he's just a real lively European runner. He got the wins at Wentworth and Cron-sur-Sierre as well, 2 wins in Switzerland. So they're the sign that he can cope with the tight tree-lined tracks too. And I think a major on his CV is not beyond the realms of possibility. And like him and Wiesberger's another one I considered, but I just don't think he's playing well enough of late to capitalise on this. But Noren's showing signs that he could score well around here.
Certainly. So the final one, and I'm going to let you take this away because it's not often we talk about a 500 to 1 tip. There's even money queuing on Betfair Exchange at 1,000. I wonder if that might be a couple of your pennies up there, Niall. Surely they'll be
already been taken at 1,000, actually.
Already been taken at 1,000. There we go. I'll hand the floor over to you to make your case for Sung Kang.
It's one from left field, to be fair, but he's got a win on the tour, just about in the last 12 or 14 months at the Barron Nelson in 2019. Second at Riviera this year, which I've mentioned as a pointer, and 7th at Bethpage Black last year in the PGA, which is a fair performance in a major championship for him.
Mm.
He ranks 68th in the world. You know, that's not too far down the rankings. He's actually not played too well recently. But his win at the Barron Nelson came off the back of a missed cut the week before. And his second at Riviera early on in the year came off the back of a missed cut as well. So I don't think the poor performances lately would really put me off. And the fact that he had a top 10 at Bethpage, I think, is worth siding with a 500 to 1 shot who's only 68th in the world. I don't know how many of those 67 ahead of him are in the field. Obviously the majority of them, but maybe only, I don't know, 63 or 64. There's a few missing anyway, Brooks Koepka being one. The 500 to 1 looks pretty tasty for me, and one who I might play in some sub-markets as well later on in the week. And I might throw out a preview for that as well, actually, if we've got the time.
Great stuff. Keep an eye on the oddschecker app for any of those columns on sub-markets. But Sung Kang, 500 to 1, best place terms you're going to get is with Bet365, a fifth, the 8. And as I say, some money queuing up at 1,000. So if you listen to this, get on that, because I'm sure after people have read Niall's column and seen that, there won't be around for too much longer. We will now just go into talking about some of those at the top end of the market as well. I'm not going to bore people with my selections. I'll maybe tell Niall off air after we finish recording, but just so he can tell me that not to bother with any of them after I've backed them. But normally we have Dylan Byrne from the 15th Club joining us, but sadly today he was busy doing some actual work for them in terms of analysing the course and working with their golfers. But he did flag a player to me. So rather than starting a DJ at the top of the market, Niall, we're going to go straight to the player that Dylan is keen on, and it's a player that you don't normally need an excuse to back, I must say. So it'll be interesting if he goes in. It is, do you want to have a guess who it is?
McIlroy?
No, it's Xander.
Xander. I thought he was very short.
Xander Schauffele, 16 to 1 he is with Hills and Bet Victor and Betfred. Not for you. Too short.
Yeah, all the credentials to win a US Open. Like, I think he's 3 top 5s in the last 3 years in this event. And he's going very well. Obviously, he won the 72-holer at the Tour Championship. He's got everything going for him in terms of this major. Hits the ball long and straight, which he'll need to do. Holds plenty of putts under pressure as well. His putting at the Tour Championship was phenomenal again. I love when you back him when he's in contention, because he's over 10-foot putts. You know, you just really fancy him to hold them. But I just can't have the price. I think I can let him win on back around the 16 to 1 mark. Hasn't won a major yet, and you know, at 6 points shorter, I just think Jon Rahm's a much better bet than Schauffele. I can't back the two of them because I do like a fair few down the field as well. But Schauffele, as you know, I'm a big fan. We backed him at 3 figures when he was second in the Open a couple of years ago. That's long history now, but 16 to 1 in this major. You know, he does spurn the odd few opportunities. He's been in contention a couple of times this year and not got the job done. I think it was the first event back. He went head-to-head with Morikawa down the stretch and a couple of others, and he dropped a few shots at a crucial stage in that. So that didn't impress me too much, but nevertheless, the 16 to 1 mark just isn't for me. 16 to 1, not for Niall. I'll give Dylan the right reply via WhatsApp. Dylan, let me know. This is how we find out if Dylan's actually watching or listening to this in his absence. If you're listening, let me know what you think of Niall's riposte there. Look at the top of the market now at the favourite. We've mentioned him briefly, but I want to ask you something specific on Dustin Johnson, who's 17 to 2. That's with William Hill and Betfred. So William Hill, again, a fifth, the 9 best place terms. He's playing unbelievable golf. He's playing possibly the best, most consistent golf we've seen. And that says a hell of a lot about a guy who's been dominant in the sport in the past as well. But we talk about previous majors, and he took a lead into the last round of the USPGA and didn't convert. And to be frank, didn't play well on the Sunday at all. Does that come into your thinking when analysing DJ's chances to win this weekend? Yes and no. Like, you know, I wouldn't put too much weight on the fact that he didn't convert a lead, you know, in a major championship. They're tough to win, and I did have my worries around his putting like over the last 12 months, but that's completely turned around over the last few months, and he's putting unbelievable. And worth noting that he's taken so much more time on the greens than he ever did. He's walking around putts like Tiger used to do, in his pomp, getting every single angle. But he's such, he's worthy favourite, and it's hard to see him out of the reckoning just the way he's playing. He loves tough US Open setups. Won at Oakmont, which plenty are saying is one of those good pointers towards this week. But yeah, at the price, I just think I can simply let him win on back. I won't be crying too much on Sunday if I'm not on and he's won the championship at that price. He must have every chance. But as I said just earlier on, I think little niggle in me is just that he can't keep this quality up for this period of time, and it's a long week this week at the US Open, like mentally as well as physically. So it's just enough to put me off back in single figures.
Justin Thomas and Rory McIlroy, 14 and 16 to 1 best price. Again, I think William Hill are the best place terms on the two of those. Who would you rather back out of the two? And is it a bit of a surprise maybe to see Rory McIlroy as big as 16 to 1 for a major? Obviously, he hasn't won for a while. He's just had, his newborn daughter last weekend. Some people like to think that might spur an improvement in form. That's one way of thinking. But what do you make of those two's chances?
Well, hopefully a newborn baby will help me get a winner on the board. Sometime soon. That would be nice. Yeah. But I think McIlroy, the fact that he's had a baby, I think it will be a positive. I think it should give him new perspective. Not that he really needs it, but it should give him a new perspective on the course. And this is a week more than any that perspective could pay off, simply because it'll be important not to get too annoyed at bogeying holes and double bogeying holes, because everybody's going to be doing it, and it's just going to be a fight to the death as to who can stay around level par. Hopefully that's the way the tournament plays out anyway, and it's not a lot easier than we expect. But of the two, I would probably rather back Thomas. I'm surprised he's drifted to such a mark. He hasn't been totally firing this last number of weeks, but nevertheless, throughout the course of the year, he's been as good as the other two, as good a record really. So I would be tempted by Justin Thomas, just the way he can play tough tracks as well, and he'll be the one who I think could make an awful lot of birdies during the week compared to everybody else. I think when he hits a fairway, he'll be absolutely lethal with his approach play, so he could make enough birdies to stay in contention over the week. But simply just a few more down the market were more tempting for me at bigger prices.
We're just going to talk about two other players before wrapping this up. Collin Morikawa, the winner of the last major championship, and Bryson DeChambeau, another one who you'd think it probably won't be necessarily too long until he does get one of these. Firstly, with Bryson, is it a case of course fit here isn't quite right given his poor approach play? Otherwise, he'd be a much shorter price.
I don't know. I think the further he is away from the green, the better his approach play has been, against the field. So I think a leg like this at 7,400 yards par 70 will probably suit him, and he played well at Harding Park. Top 5 there. So that was his best major finish too. So I wouldn't be surprised if he puts his best foot forward again. And I'm surprised he's drifted to such a price too. And I was very tempted to back, to be fair, even win only on the machine, because I think he's drifted to 30 or even bigger than that. Or 30 was the last time I looked anyway. He hits it long and he hits it fairly straight for the length that he hits it. So he could end up in some decent positions this week and make enough birdies. Never mind, he'll make plenty of bogeys, but he could be one of the ones who makes enough birdies to, to offset the amount of bogeys and stay in the hunt. So I'm surprised he's drifted to such a mark, and he's actually one I might even have a few quid saver on, just a stake saver for the week, that if he wins, will break even on the week. I think definitely wouldn't rule him out. You talked to me a couple of months ago, and you tell me that he's 7th or 8th favourite or something for this, I would have told you I would have said you're mad, and most people said you were mad too. As far as Morikawa concerned, I think he's slightly short, but nevertheless, he's such a special golfer, and he could win a lot of majors in a short space of time, like Spieth done a number of years ago, just when he's absolutely fine. So I wouldn't put anybody off Morikawa this week. It's just his price certainly doesn't suit me. But I know plenty who are on at massive prices throughout the year, and it'll be an exciting week for them. And I think he could definitely go well. Just there's a question mark over whether or not, if this US Open plays out like we hope, and level par or maybe a couple over par might win it, whether that really suits him. That's the question marks around him. We haven't got enough evidence that he won at Harding Park at double figures under par, I think, in the end. So the jury's out on whether this test will actually suit him long term. So it's enough probably to make me stray elsewhere.
Final one for you before I let you go. It's the US Open. Jordan Spieth is a 3-figure price. What do you make of that?
I have to say, tempted again, believe it or not. I was talking to a fella the other day, and I think he was 4th or 5th favourite for the Safeway last week, around 30s mark or something. And I said I would give him more chance at next week's US Open than I would at that Safeway. I stick by that, despite he's 25 to 1 last week and 100 to 1 this week. At a venue that's going to reward, getting up and down from the edges of greens, and when you've got Ogilvy actually said he wanted from inside 100 yards because he had so many shots from that distance all week for when he missed fairways, and Spieth's absolutely lethal from that range if he has a good week. Plus, a week where everybody misses fairways and where everybody's going to be punished for it will surely give Spieth a better chance, because at the Safeway, nobody's missing fairways, so to speak. Where he's hitting it all over the place. So I actually give him a fair chance this week to hang about, and he could score well, and I definitely wouldn't rule him out. And thank you for reminding me, because I think I'll go and place a few bets on him now, actually, before I forget.
There we have it. What a way to end. Thank you very much as ever to Niall. Please do download the oddschecker app so you can read all of his columns all year round. Don't just read the majors, although I must say I'm very excited for this week, and indeed. But download the app now so you can follow all of those tips. You can get all the best bookie offers, crucially for these golf majors, the best place terms as well, and the very best prices. Enjoy the weekend. It should be an absolute cracker, and please make sure you gamble responsibly.